Welcome, everyone, to Celebrating Native America. I'm your host, Nanette Bradley Deetz. I am of Lakota, Dakota, Cherokee, and German descent. Each month, I will introduce you to different guests from a Native American nation who are artists, writers, poets, filmmakers, musicians, educators, social workers, tribal leaders, and activists. My vision is to share with you the rich diversity of Native Americans and all that we are engaged with in this 21st century. My guest today is Caleen Sisk, tribal chief and spiritual leader of the Winnemem Wintu Nation of Northern California. Chief Sisk has focused on maintaining the cultural and religious traditions of the tribe, as well as advocating for California salmon restoration, the human right to water, and the protection of indigenous sacred sites. Caleen holds a BA and a teaching credential from California State University, Chico. Welcome, Chief Sisk, to Celebrating Native America.
Thank you.
Caleen, can you give us a very short history, and I hesitate to ask that, about the Winnemem Wintu in Northern California?
Yeah, well, for only being here 6,000 years, we could really shorten that up and say that we were here prior to 1850, when California becomes a state, and that we have survived that history of California struggling to be one of the Union states and figuring out what to do with the California Indian people, which included a mass murder, as far as genocide or extermination policy. It was a California government policy,
right?
Because there was nowhere else to send the Indians.
Right.
We were at the coast, and that was the end of the land base, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Up until then, we have survived as far as a people. We had our own government. We have our own structure of education. We have many different skills of survival as far as plant life, animal life, fishing techniques, a trade system that was very vast and huge around. And so we were pretty self-sufficient and self-sustaining prior to, California becoming a state.
Right.
And then at that venture, I would say that the California Indians, including the Winnemem, became the poorest of the poor. In losing land, water, subsistence, fishing, hunting, all of that went by the wayside during that time. And then, of course, our tribe also experienced one of the dams being put in the 1941. They started building the dam. The whole, it's right after the Great Depression.
Right.
Everybody's looking for work and. Just right at the same time as World War II came about, before the United States joined that effort, before Pearl Harbor happened. And so we, along with nearly all able-bodied California Indians, joined that effort to protect the homeland.
Right.
But in that effort, the United States built the dam.
This is Shasta Dam.
The Shasta Dam. Before our soldiers could come home. And so when they came home, there was no home. It was all underwater. The 26 miles of our river had been flooded, including the fish hatchery. They blocked the salmon, which was a staple for us.
Right.
Changed our life completely, changed our health status because of that food source was depleted, and that they didn't really carry out the 1941 Act.
What was the 1941 Act?
It was the Indian Land Acquisition Act, which took our land in promises to remove our burials, put them on higher ground, give us like land to live on, and an infrastructure to help us get started again.
Right.
So none of that really happened.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of the 1941 Act. I'm sure many people are not. It's something that's not taught in schools.
Right.
As part of California history. I know that last year the Winnemem Wintu Nation encountered some serious problems with officials from the Department of the Interior. I believe it was Department of the Interior, over the young woman's coming of age ceremony. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened and how that was resolved, if it was resolved?
Yeah. Well, these things are what makes Winnemem people Winnemem, is to hold these ceremonies and teach our young people what their rights are and what their responsibilities are as a people. And the Baflas Chona ceremony is that ceremony that weaves our foundation together between men and women. It's not just about the girl coming of age. It's also about the respect of the young men, the appreciation of her position, the honoring her as a young life giver.
Oh, wonderful.
And telling all of the people, you know, who she is becoming, and at the same time, the older women step aside to create a space for her.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. But it's hard for the, you know, it's Department of the Interior, it's the Department of Agriculture. It's all of them, right?
Yeah.
That they don't really understand this kind of ceremony, because now Shasta Lake is a public recreational district.
Right, right.
And so the public has rights.
Ah.
And what we needed, and what we still need and continue to ask for, is that we need at least 400 yards of that river, which is, you know, there's no boats that can go up the river.
This is the McLeod River.
McLeod River. And we need it to be closed to fishermen. You know, because on one side of the river we have the bark hut where the young girl stays with her keepers that help her. On the other side is where the dance ground is prepared. We're getting ready to receive her coming across. There's a sacred fire there. And both sides needs for other people who are not a part of this access.
Right, right.
And so we asked them to close the river on both sides so that fishermen cannot come down where the bark hut is.
Oh, right, of course.
They can't access.
Interrupt.
Yeah. And they can't, you know, just drive in and camp with us.
Right, right, of course. Yeah.
But we found that we really didn't have any rights to do that. We tried to utilize the religious freedom, you know, First Amendment.
The Religious Freedom Act.
Yeah. And they said no, that pertained to church religions.
Oh,
not earth-based.
Oh, wow.
Where our church is out there, right?
Right, right.
So then we tried to use the American Indian Religious Freedoms Act. And they said that we're not a tribe. We're not a recognized tribe in the federal government. Therefore, we don't get access to those rights that are reserved for real Indians.
Oh, my goodness.
Federally
recognized Indians, which many California tribal people are suffering because of, correct?
Right. Right. There are probably 90% of the California Indians, which roughly represents 300,000 California Indians, who are not federally recognized.
Oh, my gosh, that's a lot.
Yeah. There are only 38,000 California Indians, according to the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
You've been working, I know, very tirelessly with the United Nations. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what you're doing with them? For the rights of federally unrecognized Indians?
Yeah. We turned to the United Nations because of the UN DRIP, you know, the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And in the articles of the DRIP are some protections that we felt that, you know, include us, that we would capitalize on as an indigenous people here, recognized or not. That we're indigenous to this land and to these places, which creates that distinction for us, which is in the UN DRIP. So we have gone there to try to utilize those processes, even though the United States did not sign on to the DRIP for a number of years, and in fact they were opposed outwardly to the DRIP.
That's what I had heard, that they were outwardly opposed.
Yeah.
Are they still outwardly opposed?
To me, it's in question because they say that President Obama signed on to the DRIP, right? We're the last country in the world
to sign on to it. I knew
that.
That much I knew.
However, the federal government, in our struggle on the river to protect our rights, said that the president only signed a aspirational policy to support the DRIP, that he didn't really sign the DRIP. So we're still trying to
my
discover.
gosh.
People at the UN tell us, no, he signed it. But the federal government here tells us, no, he didn't sign it. He just did this policy.
Wow,
So-
that's a little bit confusing. That leaves so many tribal peoples up in the air with nowhere to turn.
Right.
And
Right.
are there any state laws that protect you?
Right now, the state of California has passed AJR 39, which is a recognition bill from the state level
Oh, good. Okay.
that recognizes our status and our history,
Uh-huh.
and sort of makes it clear that the 1941 Act must be carried out because it's unjust
Right.
if it isn't, and they continue to take our water, take our land, take
Right.
everything from us.
Right.
So the UN at best right now
Uh-huh.
is we're working to gather not only the unrecognized tribes of the Americas and Canada,
Uh-huh.
but there are also what they term themselves to be the unrepresented and unrecognized.
Unrepresented and unrecognized
Yeah.
tribes.
Right. And so like in Egypt,
Uh-huh.
they have the nomadic nations
Oh,
there
right. Uh-huh.
that are unrepresented
Uh-huh.
because of their patterns of movement in their lands.
Uh-huh.
And so there is a push now to ask the Permanent Forum to hold a session on these issues because it is a violation of our human rights.
It is.
To
Absolutely.
be the people we say we are, to practice the religions that we need to practice.
Right, right.
And it's a violation of the DRIP.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it falls, if I'm mistaken, tell me, but it seems as if it falls into the United Nations definition of genocide also.
Yes.
Absolutely, because
Everybody hates that word.
I know they hate it, but it's the truth. If you do not have access to religion, language, and if your religion is land-based, that land is very important. I know that recently Governor Jerry Brown has proposed elevating the Shasta Dam. Tell me about the problems with this plan and why the Winnemem Wintu oppose it.
The Shasta Dam in the 1940s was actually planned to be 200 feet higher. But because of a budget issue and time, it was stopped at 602 feet high.
Ah,
So they've been kind of tossing this back and forth over the years, since probably the 80s.
uh-huh.
And now a part of this big push for more water because, and I think Jerry Brown's whole issue with the water plan right now is to accommodate the 5 million people that he calculates is going to move to California for economy
That's what it
stability
is.
of the state, because the water that they're talking about right now really isn't about this drought.
Oh, my goodness. I wasn't aware of that. Wow. I last heard you speak at the large rally against fracking on March 15th at the State Capitol building in Sacramento. Tell me what the process of fracking is and why it is so dangerous for California and all of the country.
Yeah,
Because that includes water.
yes,
Also.
yes, fracking and some of the other extreme mining projects take pure water, drinkable water,
Uh-huh.
and they inject it into this mining process, which the water comes back out totally poisoned.
Oh, my goodness.
And so
I know I heard there was methane and I can't even remember. Benzene. The chemicals are phenomenal.
yeah, and I don't even think they know how to clean them up,
No, they don't, obviously, from all
and they
the
don't know where to
spills.
dump them.
Oh, my
That's the
gosh.
other thing.
Wow.
So that already here in California, there are already illegal dumpings in the ocean,
Uh-huh.
as well as draining into ponds that are unfilled and they're seeping back into the groundwater.
Oh, my gosh.
And so we have no handle as a
Right.
state
Right.
on the processes of fracking that's happening already. I mean, most people don't even know how many fracking mines there are in California.
No, and I hear it's in almost every county in California.
Yes.
Right?
And who knew?
I never knew until I read about it. I was shocked because it seems to be something that's not reported on much in the mainstream media, which
Right.
is a problem because
Right.
I know they're planning on turning or opening up and redeveloping all of these new they're new because they've been shut down for the past 15 years right here in the Bay Area. for that dirty Bakken oil coming in.
Yeah.
So we're concerned about that too.
Well, see, part of the brown, I call it the brown water plan.
Brown water act.
The brown water plan. It's like a toilet bowl, you know.
It is.
They got the storage tanks, and then they have the bowl at the delta, and then they have the twin tunnels, which are the pipes. But if you follow the mapping of the process that he has, that you'll see that there's 2 pipes that go off for fracking in the Monterey Shale from the new waters that they're going to bring in from these storage areas which includes the building of Shasta Dam.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
this is tremendously disturbing.
Yes,
it's something that I think I would hope that many people in California make themselves aware of what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I think that most California people and most people realize that there is a finite of water in the world.
Right.
And of that water, there's only so much of that's drinkable. That's not in glaciers or not in deep ground pools that we probably never will find.
Right.
But what we don't know is how much of our water is being contaminated by extreme mining every day, every year. Can we afford 2 more fracking mines? Do we know this? Are we at the beginning of poisoning our waters, or can we afford to have 2 more fracking mines poison our water and still be okay because we're in drought?
Right, with terrible drought situation.
Yeah. But those are things that I hope that somebody out there finds that information out, because I know that the water bottling companies they have to report how many gallons they're going to bottle and how many gallons is going to be polluted from their bottling processes.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and so they know how much they're contaminating.
They know already. Oh my goodness, this is terrible. I'm not going to buy any more bottled water. Well, since we're talking about water and the need to protect our waters, I want to show a 2-minute clip from the powerfully moving documentary film by director-producer Toby McLeod entitled Standing on Sacred Ground. This film is about 2 different indigenous nations, one from the Altai region of Russia and the Winnemem Wintu, and how they are both resisting government mega projects to be built on their homelands. Both projects could destroy these indigenous communities.
If the U.S. government raises the height of Shasta Dam, the flooding of a scenic river and the site of an ancient coming-of-age ritual could extinguish the Winnemem culture.
We're running out of river. It's a thought that we can hardly tolerate. But hopefully there'll be good people in the world who understand this and realize that dams are not the answer to the world's water shortage.
Caleen Sisk is the chief and spiritual leader of a nation of 125 people. They fight to save the waters of the world, not with weapons of war, but with dance, song, and ceremony.
We believe that this spring is so sacred. We only go up there once a year to sing at the doorway of our creation story and let the mountain know, let the spring know that we're still doing our jobs as was given to us. That's what we promised when we were put on earth, is that we'll always go there, we'll sing to it, and make sure that we're doing as much as we can for all the water, all the way down to the oceans. It's hard for a person to realize about being out in a pristine, sensitive area when they grow up and all they have is sidewalks. They don't understand that this is where their water comes from. They turn their tap on and they get water. But they don't realize that all of the upper watershed is where that water comes from.
No trending, no trending, away, 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 no trending, no trending, away, away, no trending, no trending, away, away, no trending, no trending, away, away.
Oh.
People can live without oil, they can live without gold, but nothing can live without water.
That is a tremendously powerful and moving film. Chief Sisk, can you talk about why you felt it was important to make this film at this time in the history of the Winnemem Wintu?
Mm-hmm. You know, we are a pretty small tribe, and not a whole lot of people know who we were or who we are or what our struggles are.
Right.
But back in the 90s, my grams introduced Toby McLeod, who did this film clip, to us, and he did the In Light of Reverence, which was, again, sacred sites issues.
Oh, wonderful.
And we were at that time fighting for the ski lodge.
Oh, right, I remember that.
Built
not to be built on Mount Shasta.
Our sacred springs.
Right.
And so during that time, of course, we had a really hard time as young people. You know, we hadn't been filmed much. We hadn't taken pictures of our things. You know, it's like it was invasive, you know, for that to happen.
Right.
But when they came out with the Shasta Dam issues, we did a dance on Shasta Dam as the weapon of mass destruction against us. And at that time, our mission, what came down from the mountain, is that we needed to tell the world what's happening here, because we're not being heard, we're not being seen, we're pushed to the side, we're told we're not even Indians anymore, and we have no rights to fight this, right? And so after that, you know, my grams passed away in 2003.
Oh, I remember.
I'm sorry. So it was very difficult for us. We danced in 2004, a year later, and at that time, she came back to me in my dreams and said, oh, I see now you're on the warpath. You're on the warpath now. And I thought, isn't that like from a Western movie or something? You know, it's like John Wayne or
I know, you're on the warpath.
And I didn't really realize what that meant.
Yeah.
But I feel like we are on that path. And it is a war. It's a war for water. It's a war for salmon. And we have to use every tool that we have to tell this story. To tell of the rights, not only just of us, but of water, because, you know, we're people who sing to water. We go to the mountain and we sing to this water all the time. This water goes from that, inside that mountain, that comes up in a volcano and goes down this mountain all the way to the ocean. And then it comes back again. You know, thousands of times, the same water comes back again, because it's a finite of water. It has to come back in rain and in snow and inside the mountain. And so we have turned to these filmmakers who have proven to us that they are willing to really take a close look at what indigenous people are talking about, what they mean, and putting that out so that other people who can't come to our ceremonies or they can't listen to us at the time we're talking those things, that maybe we can reach them, and maybe they will see the benefit and see the goodness of what we're trying to do. Because we're not talking about, you know, taking the United States back. We're not talking about taking everything and keeping any. We're talking about clean water. And the best way that we know from our own knowledge, our own traditional science.
And it is science.
About these water systems. Is being ignored. I know. And so we're that's why we're doing this, you know, is that more people can understand and feel it, because you have to see it.
You have to see it. I think one of the reasons I was so disturbed about the drying up of the sacred springs in the film, I remember going to several of the ceremonies that the Wintu people that you held, that I was invited to, and I felt so honored and wonderful to be there and to see what your culture the depth of tradition and culture that the Winnemem Wintu people still retain and hold on to and teach, and are very giving and share with whoever wants to learn. And that really hurt me and upset me to see that spring dry up.
Yes.
Has it come back? What does that mean for the Winnemem Wintu people?
Yeah, that day, you know, like in our history, and we're oral history, right? We have no stories or no indication that it ever did that before, that it ever dried up.
Wow.
We have no songs about it. We have no stories about it. We have nothing that indicates that this has ever happened, because it's a sacred spring.
Right, right.
And so it dried up, and we prayed, and we were heartbroken over this, right?
Yeah.
And it came back.
Oh, good.
But
not.
now this year it's gone again.
Oh,
but these are messages, you know,
Wow.
for us. Because prior to that, when we went to the spring, there was a bubbling that was happening, because it's, you know, it's an artesian spring, so it always has bubbles.
Right.
But this was a racing bubbles of sand that just was whirlwinding around, it, like
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
angry, like the
Oh,
water
you
was
could
angry.
see
It was
yeah.
was wrong, you know. And then the
Yeah.
next year is when it dried up.
Oh my gosh.
And so I feel like, as a Winnemem, you know, and Winnemem means middle water people.
Ah, thank you for telling us that.
And so we depend on that spring as the doorway back to our where we are supposed to go, where we came from. So this whole process of the drying up, because that's a sacred mountain,
Right.
Mount Shasta, Boyumpuyuk, is connected to what Graham said, 20 sacred mountains around the world that
That's
we know
what I
of.
thought. Yeah. What are
that
those
hold
sacred
it.
mountains that they're? I remember her saying that.
But that's what holds our world together. And so this water that comes out from inside these mountains, we believe they know each other. And so as you go around the world now, today, you'll find other places that are drying up because of what we're doing, you know, the things that we're doing. And that's what we believe is that we need to change, because, you know, just now, Dr. Emoto, I don't know if you heard of Dr. Emoto, a Japanese scientist who has done a number of studies on water.
Oh, I have heard of him.
Yes.
Yes, the memory of water.
The memory of
Memory
water,
of
and
water,
he has
wonderful.
figured out a way to crystallize water when you sing to it.
Right.
It's beautiful, and when you're mean to it, it doesn't form very well.
Right. I remember
So we're
hearing
hoping
about
that people will catch up.
Yeah.
Knowing that water responds.
It does to human thought and emotion. I was amazed when I saw that. I read about that. I think it was on KQED also at one point. Well, we don't have much time left, so I just want to thank you, Chief Caleen Sisk, for sharing your time, knowledge, and wisdom with us here on Celebrating Native America.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Can
much. And please show us
Yeah.
the films.
One is called Dancing Salmon Home. It also won Best Documentary at the American Indian Film Festival in San Francisco.
Right.
And then Standing on Sacred Ground is also a 4-part around the world look at traditional struggles of hanging on to those sacred grounds. And so it also is a documentary winner at the San Francisco
I
Film
remember.
Festival.
It was beautiful, too.
Yeah,
Oh, so
and it
beautiful.
also won an award for the Nevada City Wild and Scenic Film Festival.
Oh, wonderful! They're wonderful films. I want to encourage everyone to please try to purchase them or see them. I know Caleen and Toby often go to the David Brower Center in Berkeley to show these films, and many other places.
Will Doolittle is a tribal member.
Oh,
and so this is
wonderful.
one
I
of
like
our
this one.
it's the
a
New
good
Zealand and salmon. It's morely about salmon.
About salmon, because you are the people of salmon.
Yes,
right?
we want to be.
We're
they
trying
took
to
our
bring it back. I know. They're desperately
Yeah.
trying to bring it back. Well, I'd
Thank
like
you.
to just end by thanking you so much again for being here with us and enlightening us about the Winnemem Wintu tribe and everything that you've been doing and all that you're planning on doing in the future. Thank you and goodbye.